on the top. I'd like to introduce now Perry Cool. He's retired law enforcement. Now he operates the business Byte Forensics. He's been performing digital forensics for 16 years, and he's been an instructor and course designer for Tiltech. He's the creator of the ISP course, which some of you may have taken, and he's the co-author of the smartphone forensics course as well. I'd like to introduce Perry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, for you West Coasters, we're still in the good morning. All right, so today I'm going to talk about EDL access points and how I go about finding the points down and dirty. All right, basically what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to find the test points when you have already tried either the volume up, volume down EDL button sequence, or you have an EDL cable and that cable isn't working for you. We'll be doing, I'll be quickly discussing the three phones, an Alcatel, an LG, and a Motorola, and I'll attempt to do a live demo on the LG MS210. Now, what I'm just showing you today is how to get the device into EDL mode. You will have to take the next step and use your forensic software to see if it is supported. I'm just going to show you how to get a device into EDL mode, or the steps I use to get a device into EDL mode. All right, so our first guy we're going to be talking about is an Alcatel 5027B. Now I've got a screenshot here from Phone Scoop that tells me a little bit about the device. One thing that I am interested in is the type of processor. This specific processor, this device has a Snapdragon 210 and it has an MSM 8909 CPU. And further down, we can see that our iOS platform is, I'm sorry, not iOS, our OS platform is Android 6. So there's a pretty good chance we're using EDL mode. We might get in this. Encryption may not be an issue. With the 8909 processors, it can go either way. All right. So I like to have Device Manager up and running and in the background before I start my probing, because I'm going to listen for that Windows Bing notification as I'm probing each port or each point. As I probe, wait 3 to 5 seconds, wait for the Windows Bing notification. If the notification is not there, then I'm redoing my steps on another test point. Okay, so this is how I go about finding the test points on this Alcatel. Now I'm going to be playing a video here. All right, so I've got the device all torn apart. I plug the USB cable into the device, not the computer, the device. Then I get my ground leads set up. Now, one end of my test lead has got to go. All right, so I'm using a straight pin. I'm grounding one lead. Now, I am not on an evidence phone. This is a test phone. So I ground my point, plug in the computer. I did not hear a Windows notification sound, so now disconnect from the computer, ground my new port, plug the USB back in, waiting to hear that Windows notification sound. Don't hear it. Disconnect from computer, ground a new point, try again. Go to a new point, There's my Windows notification that I'm wanting to hear. All right, so that Windows notification sound will bring up the 9008 driver, and it'll be loaded under the ports section on your device manager. Now, some of you are probably freaking out that I'm using a straight pin and I'm shorting pads out. That's why I mentioned I am using a test phone, because on a test phone, if I accidentally let the smoke out by shorting something, no harm, no foul. So then I just pop the chip off and maybe do some ISP pinouts. But it's important to know, if you absolutely have to use a suspect phone and you don't have a test phone, that you use you break out your old JTAG equipment and break out that 1K ohm resistor. You do not want to just start shorting out pins on an evidence phone, because you can let the smoke out or cause some other type of damage. That's why if you use a test phone, you can document where you found it and your EDL, where you found your EDL, and then do that same procedure on your evidence phone to get it into EDL mode. All right, so to recap as the video, you remove the back cover, the intermediate cover, and the battery to expose the printed circuit board. Have your Windows device manager up and running in the background. Insert the USB cable into the cell phone USB port. Ground one end of the jumper wire to a device ground point, like a RFI shield, metal SIM housing, etc. Ground the pad you want to test with the grounded jumper lead. Now you connect the USB cable into your computer, waiting 3 to 5 seconds for the Windows notification bing. And confirm you have the QLoader 9008 displayed in Device Manager. If that doesn't work, now you're basically disconnecting the USB from your computer, grounding a new port, and trying it again. And you just do that until you hear the Windows notification. All right. So that's an Alcatel. Next up is an LG MS210, one of our favorite ones. Now, as you can see here, we have an MSN. All right, so on Alcatel or on LGs, they're quite simple. Now, one thing I want to point out on the LGs, they actually list the board, the part number for the board, or the model number. Now, sometimes you will see if they will use a specific main board across multiple device iterations, whether for either a Verizon or a different carrier. So even though my label says MS210, the actual main board may say something different. So if it does say something different, then you want to attempt to use that profile. Okay. On an LG, we're looking for the two plus signs on the PCB. I've got an arrow showing where this one is located on the MS210 board, and now we have I've blown up that location, and you can see they're quite obvious. They're not round pads. They're squares, plus signs. I'm sorry, they're plus signs or crosses, however you want to make reference. But they're always together. All right, and then with this one, you're basically just taking your tweezers, ground or shorting the two, and then plugging your cable into your computer, and hopefully it'll pop up in EDL mode. I'll do that live here in a second. The biggest problem you have is having the tweezers on both pads the first time around. All right, now we're going to discuss quickly a Motorola 2005-5. This guy has an 8940 processor, and it's running Android 9. There is encryption present, but we still got to get the device into EDL mode to see if it is supported. Now, I can already tell you on this board, I have pretty much touched every pad, and none of the pads put the device in EDL mode. So now I'm thinking maybe going to short out either data 0 command or clock probe. Now I need to have the ribbon cables still connected because this device has a USB daughter board. So in order to use the USB port as I did in the Alcatel, I need the ribbon cables connected, and I just basically folded the main board over with those cables still connected. All right, and then basically you start your probing. Now I specifically went after command or clock port right by the processor and the flash, and luckily I was able to find a pad that when grounded would put the device into EDL mode. Now the problem is I have the board folded over, so what I ended up doing was soldering a wire, your little 40 gauge ISP wire, to that pad, and then as you can see I've insulated that wire with captain's tape, so when I put the device back together it doesn't automatically short out. And then once the device is all back together, you've got your wire extending out. The tip of it is has the it has the copper tip. The coating is removed, and by grounding the wire first, then plugging in the computer USB into the computer, you see that I was able to load the 9008 driver. Now I can move on to see if it and plug the device into my forensic tools to see if it is supported. All right, so now let me share my screen here. We'll try this. All right, so as I said, I've got my device manager up. There I've got my LG phone, and I'm after just trying to ground those contact points. Ground them, plug it in. There's my Windows Bing. And as you can see, hopefully, oh, I need to expand. All right, so, and boom, there is my device is in EDL mode. Okay, let's go back to presentations. Start. Okay. And then finally, I just did a down and dirty, quick how I go about going into getting a device into EDL mode. I just talked about 3 different devices. Scott Lawrence wrote an excellent paper on mastering EDL test points. I have a link to download that document. It's an awesome read. It goes in. It also talks about several other types of phones, various models. So I do recommend that you do download this Scott's document and review it if you want to attempt to find EDL points on a different device than we discussed here. All right, that wraps it up for me. If anyone has any questions,
Yeah, thank you, Barry. Thank you for keeping it brief and educational. Really appreciate it. People are asking if you could just post that drive link into the chat.
sure.
I'd also like to add that I will be emailing a copy of that link to your emails in the follow-up email, as well as a link to the presentation and a recording of this webinar. Also, it seems as though people have been having trouble connecting to audio, so I apologize for that. As I said, there will be a recording that you can be able to review if you're unable to listen. And I will also be looking into different software so we don't have these audio issues in the future. And I would just like to put it up for questions if anyone has any questions, and Perry will be able to answer them to the best of his ability. Perry, would you be able to first just put the link in the chat for us while people are asking questions?
Working on that.
Oh, seems as though Don did that for us. Thank you, Don.
Oh, Don. All right. So excellent. Okay. Yep.
I wonder if she typed that out. That's great.
Well, I just cheated to copy and paste as well. So at least
must have been easier.
It's out there.
You're right. Okay. So let's see. Let's go through some questions.
I'm looking at Jeff. Jeffrey had one. Is it recommended to try the button combos first before trying shorting out? Yes. As I mentioned, that this process, the steps that I went through are a follow-up. You've already tried the button sequence. You've tried the EDL cable, and those did not put the device in EDL mode. So the next step would be going out and trying to short pads. Is it safe to probe when with a one is in use? Yes. The idea is we don't want a short circuit, so we need some type of resistance, and the 1K ohm resistor will work. Let's see. Are there EDL cables provided by companies like Celebrite any good? Wow, the 523 cable from Celebrite has worked for me. I also have purchased EDL cables from GSM Server, and there are multiple sites that show you how to make an EDL cable, and it's quite simple to do. So, all right. Let's see. Kent, are you seeing any other questions that I missed?
Let's see. This is from Steven. This is just a general question, but maybe you'd be able to add to it. He's asked, did anyone try the EDL Master CT280 service adapter / cable by Multicom yet? Would anyone recommend it?
I don't have that from Multicom, but that is the all-in-one device or cable. Is that correct, Stefan? Do you know? If that's the one that I'm thinking of, where it will put it Qualcomm's and EDL, it'll do MTK, and it'll also do the I call them Hawaii phones with their special processor, which is similar to Qualcomm. I have not purchased one yet. I'm trying to get one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Steven just posted a link to it. See, this is from Satyendra Nathpandi. Is there any specific names / identification marks for test points so that it is easy to identify if it was printed on the motherboard?
I'm not aware of an EDL test point being referenced on a motherboard. Once in a while, you'll see like JTAG or the UART ports being identified. What I look for and what I start out at are the larger pads first, because those are test points. So I start with those first.
Let's see. How do you get it out of EDL mode when done?
Since there is no battery, you basically just disconnect the USB from the computer, and everything shuts down. So, which is why you when you're probing and you're going from pad to pad, that's why you disconnect the power from the device. You want to basically start fresh each time. So by removing the power or the USB from your computer, that basically shuts the device down.
Okay. See, I'm just digging through. Any last questions? See if you can find any.
I see. Could you explain using the JTAG box to probe? I have not used that method, so unfortunately, sorry, I cannot.
This is from Vlad. Is the process the same with the touch device from Celebrate?
Well, haven't used a touch in a long time. I know it's very similar to the UFED for PC, and in that process, you have to put the device into EDL mode before you can proceed. So, in using the touch, following the steps, you will still have to put the device into EDL mode before you're able to move on with the touch application.
Okay. And from Satyenda, recently I encountered a device, MI Redmi Note 4, having two EDL points, one point detected in port as 900E and another one 9008. What's the difference between both?
Sorry, I do not know.
Okay. This is from Doug. Is there any downside to using the 1K pull-up resistor right from the start rather than just a straight pin?
No, there is no downside, since I am using a test phone. I really don't use the resistor initially.
From Ricky, sometimes I have had to hold the volume down and power buttons to be able to restart the device. If I have a failure during EDL extraction, I have had to restart the device. Have you seen this?
Yes, that is quite common. You can also, depending on what software you are using, in the general profiles, there are recovery tools to kick the device out of EDL mode.
Okay, and from Jesse, what are you using to acquire mobile devices once in EDL?
Well, it's going to depend if there is encryption present. In my last webinar, I was showing you the NCK dongle. If you are aware that there is no encryption, that product will provide a download of the device. You may need a specific programmer or fire hose to communicate using that product to get the device to download.
All right, so that seems to be all the questions. Just give it about 10 more seconds. All right, so I think I'd like to wrap this up. Perry, thank you so much for your knowledge and your generosity in being with us on this program. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll get at detail soon on next week's presentation. And everyone have a good rest of your day and stay safe out there. Thank you.